Spaceship One flight with Mike Melville, October 4th, 2004. That was an exciting day.
Is that the M&M flight?
I think it was the M&M flight, yes.
I got a couple of bags of M&M.
Still got my M&M.
A few that went to space. Yeah, that's cool. On October 15th, we're having Plane Crazy Saturday, and we will be saluting our law enforcement heroes and all of the emergency services personnel. Kern County Fire will be here, both ground and air operations. Turns out I've known the pilot of the firefighting Huey for 30 years. And Mercy Air, Hall Ambulance, Mojave Air and Spaceport Fire Crash Rescue. Let's see, who else am I forgetting? Kern County Sheriff, CHP. They'll all be out here on the ramp. And Mike, you can help me tell them where to park their vehicles and their helicopters. But it starts at 10 and goes until 2. We'll have someone in here at 11 talking about either emergency preparedness, how to get yourself ready for an emergency. I read somewhere they're giving out earthquake alerts, and I'm thinking, just what we need on top of all the fires.
It's the insurance companies.
It's the insurance companies putting it out. Oh, okay. Well, then I won't worry. But if I can, I'd like to have a fireman talk about all the fires in California.
Firefighter.
Yeah, and what we can do to protect our own homes. There were 3 or 4 up in Bear Valley, and I think a couple in Stallion Springs. And it really is important to clear the brush and keep your home as safe as possible. But anyway, I hope you all can come to that. It's a good time for the kids, and they are going to drop some water this time, so I've got to talk to the fire chief, Rich, and see if we can fill up the pond so they can suck up some water. And he said we'll do that when we leave. And his name is Blake. So, thanks.
Or the disposal of surplus equipment. We have 14 items which are located at the back of the action item. And all 14 items have reached life cycle maturation either through technological or mechanical failure.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? Have a motion to approve by Director Peterson, second by Director Ballentine. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, motion passes. 4B.
Regards to action item B, the approval of purchase for water truck. The current water truck is no longer serviceable and continues to leak water. The new water truck, 4,000 gallon truck, 2011 model year, comes in at $79,155.88, and this will be replacing the current water truck, being utilized for everything from dust control to firefighting water replenishment.
Move to approve. I have a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Director Peterson, second by Director Ballentine. Any public comment? Any discussion by the board?
Did we check with the fire department to see if they had any surplus equipment?
Yes, we've actively been utilizing the GSA services, and nothing has come up that meets our needs.
Is the current truck is not repairable?
It's
I don't even know what I've seen it.
It's bad. They've been repairing it for years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay.
I'm surprised.
How old is it?
I can get that answer.
Oh, well, it's that
It
old.
loses half its water by the time it gets to where it's going.
They've welded
There's
it
a-
up and patched it.
There's a trail.
I've complained about it several times, walking behind.
Yes.
The reason I,
That's why you were so anxious to make the
well,
motion.
that's why it's in the budget.
Yeah, I
And that's why I was
understand.
happy to approve it, because it was
Just curious.
it's needed.
All right, there being no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 4C, please.
4C, which is the approval of Brooke Owens Internship Contract. This falls within our line, both within Antelope Valley, Mojave, with the vision to grow the industry through community growth. Gives us an opportunity to provide an internship for a selected candidate, various companies involved in the aviation aerospace industry, Some of those companies are Blue Origin, Scaled, SpaceX, Virgin Galactic. This particular internship is focused on increasing the role of women in the industry. There is a, if you look on page, if you look on page 3, correction, page 2, this agreement allows us, or we agreed to a 10 to 12 week internship, $15 an hour weekly, or correction, $15 an hour wage rate, not to exceed $10,000 for 12 weeks. This also includes the $1,000 stipend for attending a conference in Washington, D.C. MASP agrees to the wage. We agree to provide a mentor for the candidate, and BOFP, which is the fellowship, agrees to assist in the screening and the hiring process, but not the administration of the actual fellow.
Is there any public comment on this item?
Just a question, who chooses the intern?
We choose the intern.
Yeah.
We choose the intern, but it's with the assistance of.
You choose from a minimum of 2 candidates that they provide.
Yes, sir.
Is what the document says.
Does that answer your question?
Why are we in such a rush with this?
The actual process begins tomorrow, October 5th, with the submission of the applications.
So, I've noticed on here you guys started talking to them back in September, or well before September. It says in here that you provided them with requirements back on the 21st of September. Why this instead of, why are we signing up for some national internship rather than just doing something ourselves? I brought interns to the MASP before and they've said, no, we don't have a job for them, we don't have space for them, we don't have lots of different things. So why all of a sudden are we gonna sign up for something that's gonna mandatory be $10,000?
Well, I can't tell you as to the decision of that happened actually prior to my knowledge. So, but what I can tell you is this has been budgeted for, and it does fall in line with the
Budgeted for under what category?
budgeted for it under several categories, and those categories would be administration and operations. So that $10,000 would come out of one of those 2 categories.
Let's just make sure we're on the same page here. So I don't recall that this item was specifically budgeted for. What you're saying is that we have room in the budget to do.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
thanks.
sir.
I mean, is this fellowship advertising at the local California schools, local Clinton County schools? Because if the
That was
people
my
don't know about
concern
it.
with Karina, and then if you look in the final draft that's in here, it provides Mojave Unified
It provides,
candidates
Preference.
no,
give preferential
preferential
treatment
treatment.
for Mojave
But my
Unified.
point being is, where are they advertising for this fellowship? I mean, are they advertising at UCLA, are they advertising at University of Antelope Valley? Where are they advertising so that students can apply for this?
Again, sir, I don't have the answer to that question, but I can research and find.
This might be a fine fellowship. I just think, I think we're rushing. Why are we rushing to get this thing through real quick? 2, I think we have a lot of other alternatives. We advertise for interns. We get lots of people that respond. We could do this ourselves. There's interns who will work for no pay.
You as in National Test Pilot School?
Yes. There's interns that will work for no pay. There's interns that will work for pay. There's interns that will work for just expenses. There's all kinds of different college programs out there that offer a lot of different interns. And we're gonna sign up to be a fully paid internship, which maybe that's worth it, but then again, maybe not.
Wasn't Karina was an intern here, she was paid, wasn't she?
I think she worked the Spaceship One
Yeah.
flight back when she was
Yeah.
an intern here.
Yes, that was a master's level.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Kathy, then Kevin has a comment.
I just wanted to know, where is Brooke Owens organization? Where are they located?
Well, they do their conference in DC. I don't know where they're located.
Just curious.
I've
Never heard of them.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Yes, my name from Karina can't be here. She really wanted to be here to make this pitch. Brooke Owens was Karina knew her personally, and she had a big influence on the space industry. She was a very young woman. She was a part of this whole the Spaceship One and all the stuff that happened out here. Big with Virgin and a lot of the other spaceship companies, which is why they're involved in this. Some of them were going to come over here and make a pitch, but they couldn't make it here either. But the reason is because it's this Brooke Owens. She got breast cancer at 30 years old, and she just passed away, and this is kind of in her honor. And then they're going to go get training at this seminar in her honor. So it's really about Brooke Owens and her legacy living on as in the space industry.
So there is a very local connection.
Yes.
She's responsible for the spaceship out here in our.
Yes, exactly. She was pretty big in the space industry.
I remember
Yeah.
her, yeah. She was-
Exactly, and she passed away, and this is kind of in her honor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of this would be nice to know.
I move to approve.
I'll second it.
I'd like to study this a bit more.
One second, I have a motion to approve in a second, let's continue our discussion if you would.
I don't know. I think there's so many different alternatives here that we're not considering before we're jumping right onto this one, with very little background information.
I think my feeling on it is this. I appreciate the young lady having been here and done her work. I appreciate the tenants that are involved in pushing this fellowship. I understand that. And I have a weak spot in my heart for this. However, if this is an avenue, I do agree with Dr. Peterson in one respect, and that is if we're going to go down this type of route, why aren't we, budgeting this during the budget process and having our own internship and looking for people from the local area where we have complete say and control over who the candidates are, that in the future will be more specific to the future of the airport and benefit the airport, the spaceport. So I would have to concur with Dr. Peterson on that part. And we can do a lot with 10,000 here on our own and having our own program. So those are my comments.
You say the selection process starts pretty quick. I mean, are we out if we don't approve today?
This year we would be correct.
Okay, so, but they anticipate that this thing's gonna go on for several years, right? This is gonna be a perpetual thing that they want to do.
I imagine if they get good participation, they would keep it going.
Jimmy, if she's the gal that built the replica of Spaceship One that's in the building out there.
Yeah, and
right?
it's over at Meadows, and there's a third
Yeah,
one.
we built two of them here at the airport. Very nice young lady.
I'd like to know why this is a better path than doing ourselves, considering we haven't traditionally done internships.
Yeah, well, we have. Karina was an intern. And we had an exchange program with a gentleman from Edwardsburg.
That was not an intern.
John Kelly.
That was an intern. But again, I don't know why we need to rush this. Why are we in such a rush? Why can't we have some more information? Why can't we?
We'll have a motion by Director Deaver and a second by Director Parker. Is there any more discussion? All right, let's take a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
No, I'm on the fence. I
That's
agree.
not a vote.
I know, I'm trying to give you, I'm probably gonna say no, but I wanna defend.
So you guys gonna leave it up to me?
That's all I need.
Your vote's no?
Yeah, it's gonna be no. And I would like to come back at the next meeting.
I have nothing against the Brooke Owens Fellowship. I'm just against this rushing.
Well, the idea of having our own fellowship is very intriguing, and I'd like to support the industry. She was a great person. I have nothing bad to say about her at all. But
I had a pretty long discussion with Karina about this
That would be
over
nice
the
to hear.
phone. Yeah, you're right, and my only caveat was that we use local town if possible
that's it.
to
There's a
involve
lot
the
of
school district, and
parts
she
of this
did
thing.
add that in the caveat.
We have two yeses, two nos, and I'm sitting here. Here's what I would like to do before we zip this out one way or the other. Can we set this aside Can we set this aside, Scott, for a moment?
You started the vote already.
And we don't have to finish the vote.
You can vote, you can abstain, and then it doesn't win or it doesn't lose, it gets set aside.
Scott?
Yeah.
Is he there?
Is
Is he
anybody-
there?
I'm here.
Well,
I'm here.
I'm interested in another piece of information now. So what are my options?
Well, vote yes, no, or abstain. If you vote
That's it.
no, then
That wasn't the answer I was looking
contract
for.
has been defeated. If you abstain, then there's not a majority vote.
It's still
so
no.
The
You
board
just
has
wanted to
taken
see
no
the
action, and if
I-
you want to bring it back later, you can bring it back later.
I just,
A no vote now does not preclude it being brought up later,
I
does it?
understand that.
It doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't.
Can we bring it back? It doesn't have to be another day, or can we bring it back at the end of the meeting?
You can bring it back at the end of the meeting.
Okay. Therefore, no, the noes have it. And Kevin, I would like to get some information from Karina if she's available. But I don't know how to do that, Scott.
Why can't we just do
What,
it the next
what
meeting?
information do you want? Because I can probably not.
I
get
want
that
to know if it's that critical that it must be passed today.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Or if we can have till the next meeting to bring this to a conclusionary vote. That's what I want.
Okay.
Because
It's a big deal to two of our major tenants.
exactly, and I concur. Item 4D.
But they're participating.
Gentlemen, we've had a vote, we're moving on. Go ahead, 4D.
4D, request for defense and indemnity, Mr. Stuart Witt and Mr. Kevin Vojkovich. Mr. Dean Sost has filed a new lawsuit in federal court against the district, Stuart Witt and Mr. Kevin Vojkovich, containing the same basic allegations as a complaint in the state action. Mr. Witt and Mr. Vojkovich have requested defense in federal action. Under the Tort Claims Act, the district is to defend former and current employees unless the board determines that one of three items, acts or omissions were not within the scope of their employment. The employee acted or failed to act because of actual fraud, corruption, or actual malice, or the defense of the action or proceeding by the district would create a specific conflict of interest between it and the employee. We are not aware of any facts that support any of the grounds for refusing a defense. Therefore, we recommend the action the board approve the request for Mr. Witt and Mr. Vojkovich for defense and indemnity in SOAS lawsuit in federal court.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? There being none, I do have a motion. Move.
Second.
Motion by Director Ballentine, second by Director Peterson. Any discussion amongst the board? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 4E.
4E, Mojave Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors election. We are current members of the Mojave Chamber of Commerce, and they've requested a nomination from Mojave Air and Spaceport by October 11th, 2016. Directors' current positions that are open for election, re-election are Mr. Hodgkinson, Mrs. Myers, Mijares, and Mrs. Wiles. Our recommended action is board to discuss and determine if who should be nominated for a 3-year term for Mojave Chamber of Commerce Board.
That letter went to every member of the chamber. You don't have to
Okay.
take an action. Yeah. I do it every year.
So you're just bringing it for the opportunity,
Yeah.
so if they wanted to nominate someone specific.
Is there a motion for anything on this, gentlemen? All right, that one dies for lack of motion. Item 4F.
Commercial property insurance renewal.
Move to approve. A motion by Director Peterson, second by Director Ballentine. Any public comment? Any discussion amongst the board? All in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Financial report, please.
For the bank balance ending for August 31st, 2016, we have an increase of $200,000. That's due to our increased fuel sales, and then also we received a FAA payment in August, which the invoices were paid in September, so we'll see the drop in the funds from September, but we got the money before we paid out the invoices.
I just got a question. Isn't that really good fuel sales?
That is really good fuel sales.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We've
Does
got
that
a,
still do the F-18s going on?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's the F-18s, okay. I was gonna say, who's flying? Yeah.
How long do we suspect that's gonna keep up until China Lake's back open again?
We expect that to be enduring. We have a pretty good relationship with the F-18 squadron now. They've commented several times on how we're the only airport within the vicinity that does hot fuel, and that is a huge boost to their operations.
so we are.
Excellent.
And right now, we have no customers on the over 90 days for the AR. So, yeah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, and Rem Roger, he's on the payment arrangements, he is continuing to stay current on his current rent and then starting to make payments on his previous account, so. That's everything.
All right. Thank you very much. CEO report?
Yes. So for the CEO report for this meeting on October 4th, we've had multiple airport improvements. It's the last time we met. One of them, the Savovich and Airport Boulevard improvement process. So that went as scheduled or as planned. No outstanding issues with that improvement. We've also installed 2 new portable eye wash stations, bringing us within OSHA compliance for operations, refuel operations, and hazardous environment. Airside crack seal operations concluded on September 23rd. We've done a pretty decent majority of the airfield, especially the parts of the airfield that were not attended to last time around. So majority of Alpha runways 123.004, 22 and 0826 were completed. Bravo, and then the offshoot, what we're calling Bravo, that dog leg to the right. And then also the retroreflective painting on 0826 was completed. And we'll begin working on the installation of the electronic access gate at Virgin Galactic. It's supposed to resume today, but due to constraints, we'll start again tomorrow. That was previously started and placed on hold for the 0826 projects. So. Updates, first aid CPR, that was completed. That was one of our big training items. 15 total staff were trained, plus 1 board member. And then we successfully hosted the NASA Aerospace Safety Advisory Panel on September 15th. That was an 8-person panel of industry experts on safety gathered from across the industry, mostly from the NASA. The FAA did not attend. I'm sorry, sir.
Go ahead. You're going to answer my question, I hope.
Okay, so for authorized payments, we've included check registers 09-2016 and 09-21-16. Total checks paid out, 71 checks for $252,117.80. And then the check registers are on the back of the attachment.
So my question is, and I suppose we're going to have a discussion on this whole thing. These were signed under the authority of the CEO, correct?
Yes, she came in and signed
She
that.
came in and signed them, which we have given her that authority, but we have not approved these checks. Should they not have been on this agenda for approval subsequent to their signing by the CEO?
We did consult with Scott as far as the resolution, so he might be able to.
So what's the answer to that question, Scott? Should they have been on here for approval?
No, you guys have delegated authority to the CEO to approve payments for certain categories of checks. By delegating that authority to the CEO, she can approve those payments. Now, as with contracts that she approves up to $25,000, those are reported to the board so the board knows what's been approved, but it doesn't require any board approval.
Who countersigned these checks?
I did.
All right. Scott, are you going to handle the discussion topic on the resolution regarding check approval and check signing authority?
Sure.
Go ahead, because I'm confused.
All right, so you guys, the admin code is in desperate need of being updated. and Karina, Michael, and I have been working on it for a while now. But it has several provisions that have not kept up with the practices and resolutions of the district. So last meeting, or 2 meetings ago, I'm sorry, I don't remember which one, the board adopted a resolution that authorized the CEO to approve certain categories of payments. What that means is the CEO can take those categories, and those are payments for utilities in the ordinary course of business of the district, payments for contracts that have been approved by the board, payments for contracts that have been approved by the CEO, and this is a fairly standard practice, and it allows the district to, operate on an as-needed basis as these payment obligations arise. So the CEO can make those payments. Now, you also have a policy that says all checks of the district have to have 2 signers. The signers can be 2 directors or a director and the CEO. Now, the bank does not require this. The bank is just happy with just 1 signature on a check, and the bank will often process checks with just 1 signature, but it's a district policy that there be 2 signers. So a question arose last week about what happens when the CEO, pursuant to her authority under the admin code, approves a payment to a vendor, but there has to be a second signature. Is the director approving that check without having board authorization? And the answer to that is no. The board has already said the CEO can approve these payments. We are just having a director be the second signatory because of this parallel policy of the board that 2 people sign all checks. The second signature doesn't constitute an approval of that check. The second signature by the director does not constitute an approval of that check. And though I don't think this was intentional, it also kind of serves as a check and balance on the CEO's authority, in that you have another pair of eyes that are looking at these checks as they come through to make sure that the CEO approving and paying them is appropriate under the authority that's been delegated by the board. So with those 2 concepts in mind, what we did is we went back and we looked at the admin code and all of the provisions relating to check approval and check signatures. And I drafted a resolution that tries to clean up the admin code and clarify how those 2 concepts work with one another. And that is, I believe that you have the red line version of that, excuse me, in your packet today. So that's what we're trying to accomplish, is we're trying to just clarify within the admin code how those 2 policies of the district relate to one another.
All right, that was clear as mud. We appreciate that. I mean that nicely though. To me, Scott, in my mind, if you're a signer on a check, you are giving your authorization for the bank to pay that check. In my mind, there is no such thing as the second signer is just somebody who signs because the CEO said this check is good. And that's my philosophy. I'm okay with the CEO authorizing and signing checks. I don't know how I feel about an actor, a director signing without board approval. I think that's a director acting independently. I don't like that. And then the next thing is I would still expect, even though that we've given authorization to the CEO, I still expect that all expenses or expenditures, whatever the case may be, would still be included in our agenda and still be subsequently approved by the board, so that the board is given notice of what's going out of the checking account. That's how I feel. I don't think there's anything in the government code that makes that mandatory, but that's how I feel. Any other discussion amongst
So on the same page or majority that we approve.
in my world, the CEO or general manager has carte blanche authority to sign checks and the like, and they don't even come back to the board for approval or even subsequent approval before or subsequent approval. But I feel like in government, the people elect you to give it some additional oversight. So we probably should operate a little bit differently than they would in the private industry.
But didn't we approve it for her to sign?
Yeah, we did, and I have no problem with that at all.
So then,
But
if we approve her to sign, then really all she has to do is kind of like what she did here, which was just present the check register for review that, hey, this is what we did. So then if somebody has a problem, they can say, hey, I had a problem with this, why did we do that?
I get you.
But we can always vote to change it, but I don't think that's where we're at now.
Well,
Okay with it?
I think I don't know if I voted against it or I wasn't here, but I would have probably done one of the voted against it. I just don't remember what we did on this. But
Yeah, clear as mud is about.
well,
but if we're going to give her the authority, then she's got the authority.
well, if she has the authority, then, and we granted it to her, I don't see why it needs a second signature from a board member.
Well,
I mean, we can make us, if we have to have a second signature, it can be a member of the staff. It could be the finance director, or somebody else,
And
a
I believe that
responsible
was,
position.
sorry, I believe that was the intent earlier, was the second signature for the board director was at some point in time supposed to fall off once you're comfortable with the procedure.
Well, I'll bring up one thing that's related that maybe not, as we go through this, as I go through all these different accrediting processes, right? They have some separation of powers things such that, and I don't know if it falls in the same thing with us here, but as a government board. But for example, they don't like the general manager or the president signing checks. They want a person who's out, like the CFO should be signing the checks. In order to have that separation, so there's a little bit of
Whoever's approving the invoice doesn't sign the check, it's somebody different.
So I don't know where we're at. I don't know what rules would apply from that standpoint, but assuming that we're legal on giving her the authority, then she certainly has the authority. The question is, do you want to take it back? I mean, maybe we let it run for several months, have her report out what she's doing, and if it all goes well, then.
I just want oversight, so if we get the check register within our packet, our bi-weekly packet, or bi-monthly packet, I'm fine with that. So she's reported to the board what she's spent. The only thing I don't like is we're running around and get a director to sign, because to me, we didn't give a director, and I'm not picking on you, Bill, this is, you just did what we've been doing all along. The board didn't authorize the director to sign. We authorized the CEO to sign, and that's my hang-up.
But board policy requires a director
I
to
know,
sign.
I know.
So we need to,
I know.
we need to pull that
that's why
board
I
policy
mentioned it.
back.
Yeah, and let me just clarify. You authorized the CEO to approve. So if the CEO has approved the check, and that approval is within the CEO's authority, then the signing doesn't represent an approval from that director. Because, as you've pointed out, Director Evans, the board has not authorized a director to approve those payments. But also, it's unnecessary because that authority is delegated to another public officer. Now, what we can do is you can continue as is with the two-signature policy. We can change it to a one-signature policy, and we know that it doesn't matter to the bank either way. Or we could change the second signature to the finance director, COO, or some other public officer.
Mike, what do some of the school districts that you've done work in, how are they handling this?
It's a little different because their major disbursements go through the county treasury. And those checks are signed, if you will, by the superintendent, county superintendent of schools via facsimile plate. But each of the school districts has a revolving cash fund. They typically run $40,000 to $60,000, and that fund is in a local bank, and then they write checks for that. And the expenditures are taken to the board after they've been dispersed for ratification.
Who signs on the revolving account? Superintendent?
One of the superintendent, assistant superintendents, and directors of fiscal services, typically, there'll be 4 to 5 people in the district, any mix of 2 can sign. First signature is essentially
But nobody on the board of trustees is signing?
No. And the second signature is, and really, I've always said it's an affirmation that all of the control procedures have been met up to that point that was received the first signature. So there's a whole process that you have to go through. And you're not just looking at checks when you're signing, it's the first or second signature. You're looking at the entire payable package. So you can review the invoice, make sure everything ties out, anything you want to look at, you can look at. So you can get a full affirmation. So it's the second signature is really an internal control check.
And there's also a dollar amount stipulated that it can only go up to without board approval.
And I think that probably depends on the district. And
It
in my
is,
case,
yeah. There's a minimum
we didn't have
designated by
a limit.
ed code, and then there's
But,
a local minimum that can be underneath.
Our limit was defined by the size of the revolving cash fund, which in our case is $6,000.
We handle it in the private industry. Nobody on the board signs checks. It's officers, they get the packet, just like you're saying. They get to sign it. You have 2 signatures, even though the bank only has to have 1. It's the same thing. That's what I like. And then everything comes to the board afterwards for subsequent ratification.
Education is basically the same.
Yeah.
CFO is going to be signing checks based on the budget.
Well, let's do form an ad hoc committee then. Jim, I'd like to point you to that. And how about you, Mr. Parker?
Sure.
And I'll let you arrange a time with, you willing to do that, Mr. Officer? I didn't ask you if you would be willing. I just kind of volunteered you, but.
I think Jimmy has some, I would go agree with Jimmy.
Yeah,
He's got
his
some, he's
history.
got some legitimate concerns
Yeah.
and some definite history
Yeah.
with the program that can.
That's why I asked.
Okay.
Just come back and give us your thoughts. Okay. All right, so that's formed. So I'll let you take the lead and give Mr. Parker and staff and maybe give us a report, maybe next time. Our next meeting's too soon.
Probably too soon.
The first part of November, first meeting of November.
We're gonna have to wait for Karina to get that.
You might be able to do it by phone with her. She'd probably be willing to do that.
I was fixing up the meeting room in Building 1. And the only problem is it doesn't have a name. It's referred to as the meeting room in Building 1. And I've talked to some people, and since that's a World War II building, and this airport has a very strong relationship to World War II, I would like to suggest a name, and then maybe we could open it up for a future meeting to come to a final name. We don't want to get into a big naming orgy like perhaps we did before, but my suggestion is Corsair, because that is probably the signature fighter aircraft of naval aviation and Marine Corps aviation in World War II, and they were flown here at Mojave. In fact, they were flown here in the 50s by Wally McDonald, local guy, and appeared in a video which may still be being shown in the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C., featuring that aircraft. I'd rather an aircraft than a person. I just think that would be appropriate. So that's my suggestion.
Any other director comments?
Yeah. I'll make it short. And I'll put this out to general manager and the staff. From my perspective, if you're going to bring us something that's out of the ordinary, then I would like to have some information on, I'm talking about this Brooke Owens Fellowship participation, which might be a fantastic thing, I don't know. But we've had some other things like this, and generally the staff memos are pretty good, but this one's lacking in a lot of information. What is this fellowship? What kind of organization is it? Is it 501c3? Who's running it? How long's it been in thing? Why is this a good thing for the airport? These kind of information that can help me make decisions. If I haven't had time, if it's really important, I don't understand why it hasn't been socialized to the board anyway with some, hey, it's a really important thing for the airport, and this is why we ought to do it, or maybe it's not that important to the airport, but it's still a good idea, or whatever the reason is. But I'd like to support things if I can, but I gotta have information to do that. So I just think some of the staff memos are right to the point, hit all the who, what, where, when, why, how, and why we should do it, and this one's didn't. And I just think we need to, if we're gonna do these things, provide a little bit better background information. One board member appears to have gotten a significant amount of information. But the other one's not enough.
Me.
Oh, okay, well, I've got quite a bit of background. I knew the lady, knew what she did, know what her importance was to the people, to several of our major tenants on this airport. And I didn't have any problem understanding that.
Anything else? You have anything for Ballentine? If I would like to bring this back, the fellowship back on the agenda for our next meeting, and if you can address those questions that Director Peterson has. I have learned that it is not, it would be nice, if we are going to participate, it would have been nice to do something today from a competitive standpoint, but it is not necessary. We can come back and do it our next meeting. With that, we move into any public comment on items not on the agenda. If there are none,
Just a reminder,
Yes, sir.
tonight's National Night Out, in case you guys are doing anything in Mojave. We're doing a big thing in Cal City, CCPD, CCFD, K-9 units, stuff like that.
thank you.
Taking me to dinner?
What? Yeah, you know I am. Don't I owe you a dinner or two already?
There are free hot dogs there.
Just be sure to report it on your exit 700.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, with that, we move into closed session.